We have resources for doing that can be found on our landing page URL that I will post in the chat. ODOT has been in contact with the federal government about best practices for how to react to the data breach. We are following their guidance, and we've been working on the issue ever since we found out about it. But note that there is a delicate balance to maintain between notifying the public about the breach while not putting out a signal to potential bad actors who may take advantage of the situation and make it worse. We don't want to jeopardize security any further or have any more people or organizations be affected. So we must be careful about what details we provide about the breach. Just know that if we can't provide information about the breach to you due to security reasons, we will let you know. Know that this is a fluid situation, and we still have a lot more analysis to do on it. We're continuing to evaluate the extent of the breach to understand what data was compromised, and this is our top priority. We want to help the public become aware of the resources they can use to protect themselves. Folks can use our data breach landing page on the DMV website and get links. They can get a free credit report and check their information with the 3 credit agencies. If you lose the landing page link, don't worry, just Google Oregon DMV, go to the DMV's homepage. We have a virtual assistant on the homepage that will answer questions about the data breach and lead you to that landing page. People can also call the DMV at 503-945-5000, but know that there is an automated message there about the breach. It will encourage people to go to the website, and then people can be assisted by our agents. So that's all I have to say for now. Catherine, back to you.
Thank you, Michelle. With that, I'd like to turn it to Thomas Amato, our Chief Information Officer.
Thanks, Catherine. I'll give a little bit more information and color from the IT side of things, perhaps filling in a little bit more. Now, as we just said, ODOT uses MoveIt, and MoveIt is a secure file transfer software package. It's used to encrypt and transfer data files between parties. Now, on June 1st, the Cybersecurity Infrastructure Security Agency, that's part of Homeland Security, issued a critical alert about vulnerabilities in the system. And that's all MoveIt systems everywhere globally. Our IT teams took action immediately that morning to secure our systems. On June 2nd, our teams identified certain technical indicators that meant data transferred using the software was likely compromised, and determined that patching the system per vendor recommendation was not a sufficient step to take, as data had likely already been breached. We immediately turned off services to prevent any further data loss. We also implemented emergency response procedures and immediately began coordinating efforts with other security teams here at the state of Oregon, and engage a third-party expert security forensic team to help us understand the potential extent of any presumed breach. Despite our best efforts, the group which conducted this global attack exploited what is called a zero-day vulnerability. Now, 0 days of vulnerability where the threat actor knows of a flaw in software and how to exploit it before security researchers and manufacturers, and before organizations with good vulnerability management practices have a chance to even patch their systems. Our forensic work is not yet complete, but evidence is showing that the attack and subsequent data loss happened near the end of May, several days before official alerts of the vulnerability or the availability of patched software. It's also important to understand that our work indicates that the attack did not extend beyond the MoveIt system in question. The wider ODOT network and systems on it were not compromised through this attack. The files moved using the system were not infected, nor would they impact recipient systems. In other words, the vulnerability was only within this third-party tool. I want to emphasize that good forensic analysis takes time. Our understanding of the specific nature of the data impacted is not easy. It wasn't until a few days ago, Monday, June 12th, that we learned the data breach included the data being reported to you today. ODOT continues to implement incident response protocols and work closely with other state agency cybersecurity experts, third-party forensic consultants, and others to further evaluate the nature of the breach, and we will work to implement other remedies as deemed necessary. It is our highest priority to maintain the security of the personal information of all Oregonians. We will continue to monitor and manage the situation closely. Catherine, back to you.
Thank you, Thomas. With that, I'd like to open it up to questions. Please raise your hand using the chat function if that is, or the react function. I'd like to call on Bennett first. And please, Bennett, if you wouldn't mind saying what organization you're from as well.
I can't seem to. Oh, there it goes. Okay, sorry about that. Yeah, my name's Bennett Hall. I'm the editor of the Blue Mountain Eagle newspaper in John Day. My question has to do with exactly what kinds of personal information may have been stolen in this breach, and how can this information potentially be used against Oregonians?
I'd like Amy to start with that question about the personal information. I'm echoing a little bit, but if Amy can talk about that and then kick that over to Thomas, I think that's a kind of a two-parter for our staff.
Sure. So good afternoon, everyone. And Bennett, I think for security purposes, we're not going to discuss exactly what data points were potentially included in that file. What we're saying is if you have a Oregon driver's license ID permit, driver's permit, you can assume that data associated with that credential has been compromised. Catherine?
Thomas, did you have anything to add to that, or should I move to the next question?
I don't have anything to add at this time.
Okay. I also have a question from Jamie Seymour.
Excuse me, I've got a bit of a follow-up if I could. Just to clarify, the information that was stolen, is that limited to what is printed on the driver's license itself, or could it potentially include additional information such as social security numbers or that sort of thing that may have been supplied during an application process?
Yeah, Bennett, it could include things beyond what's printed on the card itself.
And you don't feel that you can tell us what those things are?
So Bennett, I would like to give the other reporters a chance to get their questions in. So I'd like to move on to Jamie.
Jamie Seymour with Coin 6 in Portland. I've got a bit of a two-parter because to follow up on Bennett's, what is that other information that is included? Does that include, say, social security numbers, financial info? And also, you know, from the time that you learned about this, why are we just hearing about it now? Why today? Thanks.
So I'd like to turn that, especially that second part of that question, back to Thomas.
Yeah, sure. Thanks for the question. I'll start with the second part of your question first. There is a balance that needs to be made between, on one end of a spectrum, immediate disclosure of everything you know, even before you understand it. And on the other side of the spectrum, complete and total understanding and full ability to protect partners that may be potentially impacted through the event. The truth is somewhere in between, and competing interests need to be balanced throughout that. I do want to reiterate that good forensic work does take time. And even on June 12th, we are still talking about preponderance of evidence, enough for us to say that there is that we can confirm and have actually believe that this event is one that is confirmed and one that we are very confident saying happened. Between that time and today, we have been trying to put in place things to prepare Oregonians for this announcement and to do that the right way, so that we didn't give too much evidence to the actual threat actors who could use our verification of their attack as leverage, and also to be able to prepare the kinds of resources to present to the people of Oregon.
Thank you, Thomas. David, and can you say, I don't want to mispronounce your name, KLUGH. Can you say what organization you represent?
I represent ABC News KOHD in Bend, Oregon, and my question is related to the talk about notification by an agency associated with Homeland Security. I'm curious about the disconnect that might have existed between the contract company that was handling these transfers and the state of Oregon, and why it took an outside organization to notify you that there were vulnerabilities, and did that right as that hack was taking place.
So Catherine, I'll take that one.
Thank you. I got distracted by the chat questions.
Thing. Hi, David. I want to just clarify something. So MoveIt software is software that we run and operate. It is vendor supplied, purchased third-party software, but we operate it here at the state of Oregon. It is supported and provided by a third-party vendor. I referenced CISA because they are authoritative. There really was not any kind of a disconnect. Progress Software alerted CISA as well as other agencies that put out these kinds of reports. That all happened at the same time. And so there really wasn't a disconnect. So we're talking about the early morning hours of June 1st, and the industry and as you follow any of the reporting on this, is looking like most of the breaches happened near the end of May. And so that disconnect between your ability to do anything about it or anybody knowing about it and when it actually happened, that's what people call in the trade a 0 day, because you have no time.
I got you. So just a quick follow-up, and then I'll let you all move on. So it was a notification that came through because there were indications of a breach.
You got it. But I would just say because there were notifications of breaches happening around the world.
And I believe Carolyn had a little more to add to that.
Yeah, Carolyn Sullivan, Chief Administrative Officer at ODOT. I just want to clarify, we didn't receive notification because CISA saw vulnerabilities in our system. They were alerted by Progress Software, the maker of MoveIt, that they had vulnerabilities, and CISA, being with the Department of Homeland Security, notified the general public of these vulnerabilities with instructions and best practices on how to patch their systems to address the vulnerability.
Okay, so it was the vendor that notified all users there was a vulnerability, and then that investigation began discovering the breach.
Yes.
That's correct.
Okay.
Right.
Thank you.
As part of our security practices, we monitor vendor notifications and CISA notifications.
Thank you, David. Let's go to Noelle Crombie.
Good afternoon. This is Noelle Crombie with the Oregonian. I wondered, perhaps this is a question for Mr. Amato, can you explain in more detail the lack of urgency the agency has shown in informing the public about this breach? It sounds like from what you're telling us that you were able to confirm as of Monday that driver's licenses were impacted. That's 4 days. What was the agency doing during that time?
Hey, thanks for the question,
Thomas. Yeah.
But yeah, thank you for the question. I think I already answered that one, right? We are trying to respect the interests of. We're basically trying to respect various different competing interests here around privacy, security, and disclosure, working with other security experts who also are providing us advice in this arena. And this is,
Were they advising you to delay notification to the public? Is that the advice that you got from security experts to delay notification to the public?
Noelle, this is Carolyn Sullivan, Chief Administrative Officer. There was no advice to delay, and it's only been 48 hours since we learned of the nature of the data in that file. We have been very carefully and thoughtfully considering how to best address what we believed would be a number of inbound requests for support from from holders of Oregon IDs. And it takes time to put together appropriate frequently asked questions to be able to address to provide the DMV staff and others who might be fielding these inbound questions appropriate information to be able to respond appropriately.
So I'd like to move on to Emily Gersh.
Yes, hi there, Emily Gersh with K2 News. Thank you for having this press conference. My question is, what security software does ODOT currently have in place, and when is the last time it was updated?
Thomas.
Yeah, thanks, Emily. I don't want to speak to the exact kinds of software that we have in place. We have layered security that involves software that we operate, as well as statewide systems. The software is kept up to date, but I don't want to get into details with the kinds of security software that we have in place, or whether other systems would have helped out further on this matter.
Can you explain why the public does not deserve to know what security measures you have in place?
Oh, yeah, I do believe that a statement of some kind could be developed, but the actual layout of the kinds of software that we use and how it is deployed is typically classified as level 3 information. And the very reason for that is because the keeping some of that a little bit behind closed doors actually helps protect the people of Oregon and our systems.
I see that, thank you, Emily. I see Anna Kaminsky has a question. Anna, what organization are you with?
Hi, thank you. I'm with the Bulletin in Bend, Oregon. I was wondering if the department has heard of any confirmed cases of unauthorized transactions or account activity or identity theft or similar cases as a result of the breach. And then what does the department have in place besides just monitoring credit reports for people who think they might be impacted by this?
I'd like to turn that one over to Amy Joyce first.
Yeah, thanks. I'm not aware of any reports of fraudulent or identity theft type, even assertions based on this situation. So that's what we have there. In terms of the protections that folks can take, that's the best protections that folks can take in terms of the potential of people having their protected information is to be monitoring their credit, to be, potentially locking down their credit. You have that ability. And then, so Thomas, I don't know if you have any other aspects in terms of security.
No, I think that those are the appropriate steps to take at this time, and just general heightened awareness of the types of common internet scams that exist today through all vectors when people engage online.
Yeah, and a number of those were outlined, sorry to interrupt you, a number of those were outlined in the news release that we issued earlier today and that Michelle linked to in the chat. And I believe you had a follow-up question.
Yeah, I was wondering, is ODOT legally liable if any cases of identity fraud or theft or anything like that were to come of this incident?
Carolyn, can you take that one?
Sure, I'll take that one. I think that's beyond the scope of this conversation, and frankly, I'm not familiar with the legal liabilities and aspects. Again, just to reiterate, there are many common steps for people to take to monitor their credit and manage that appropriately as it's important to them and their families. I suppose that's certainly a question for other parties such as the Department of Justice or other state agencies in that respect. I will add that we don't believe that there were any financial transaction type information pieces in this data, such as credit card information. And so, again, but even still, monitoring your own credit is a very important step for everybody to take just regularly.
Thank you, Carolyn. I'd like to move on to Mark Ratner. Mark, what organization are you with? All right, maybe we can come back to Mark. Catherine Cook, what organization are you with?
Hi there. Yes, Catherine Cook with KGW News in Portland. Just a quick question for you guys. Assuming DMV employees have Oregon driver's licenses, have your staff been able to access their credit reports in the last 48 hours since learning about the breach? And if so, how is that fair?
I'll take that. So if you could mute, please. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
So. Great, thank you. Very few members of DMV staff were alerted to the situation that we have here. Again, that idea of keeping the information close to try to develop what we're going to do in response to this situation. General DMV staff were alerted after this news broke today. And so anyone who happened to check their credit, who's a DMV employee, wasn't doing it based on this situation.
That's not really quite answering my question. When
I'm sorry.
Staff, yeah, no, I appreciate that. When staff, perhaps Mr. Amato and you, Ms. Joyce, learned about this breach, did you immediately check your credit report? Have you checked it already?
No, I haven't.
Catherine, I can speak for myself. I have not, no.
And I have not either.
Thank you. Obviously, there's an urgency and a sense of frustration from people who know time is of the essence, and these bad actors, as you've been calling them, can do certainly a lot of damage in a short amount of time. I'm just really trying to wrap my mind around this 48-hour window that you've allowed to lapse before notifying the general public. I do appreciate the balance and the need for that, but it just seems like there is a lack of urgency here that you haven't taken account for.
I feel like that was more of a comment than a question, and Mark is back online, so I'm going to move on to Mark.
Yeah, I think it's important to note that several agencies have been hit by this Move IT breach this week, and I was wondering if you have communicated with them for information that might be helpful to your investigation. Maybe have you learned anything that might be helpful?
Thomas, I think that one's for you.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it was Mark that asked the question. There's some general awareness of where there are other impacts. I can't speak for anything else right now in the state of Oregon. It's mainly what's available on the news. And I will tell you, though, that our forensic team that we were working with, they are being a point of consolidation of information. And that is where a lot of the consolidation of what happened, how did something happen, what are effective steps to take, how to better understand what is lost. That's where a lot of that work is ongoing. There is not, at least from ODOT's perspective, any casual conversations between other organizations on this matter or as an affected party.
And Mark, I forgot to ask what organization you're with.
I'm with KONA, and I'm sorry about my mute.
I think we can say it happens to all of us. So I see some hands up still from Bennett, Jamie, and Catherine. I'm happy to go back to you for follow-up questions. If you left your hand up by mistake, please lower it. I'll go back to Bennett first.
Sorry, there's a lag when I try to unmute. Yeah, thank you. This hack has, and of course there are a lot of other organizations that have been caught up in this hack beyond DMV. This hack has been described in published reports as being conducted by a ransomware gang. Has DMV received any sort of a ransom demand? And if so, is DMV negotiating to try and keep this data from being published?
So I'll turn that one over to Carolyn. If Thomas is the better person, I'll let you guys duke that one out.
I'll take that one. So Bennett, the federal government is strongly recommends not negotiating or paying ransoms for information. And I will leave it at that.
Thank you.
All right, and we also had a follow-up question from Jamie.
Jamie at Coin. Seems like the first part of my question earlier was skipped over. Again, just trying to get what information is at risk, because you said it's likely not financial or anything related to credit card statements, but if we're being advised to check our credit reports, that kind of thing, what beyond what's listed on the driver's license is at risk right now? Thanks.
Thomas, do you want to take that one too?
I don't think I want to add anything more than what Amy said before. And I'm sorry, Jamie, if that is not completely satisfactory at this time, but I believe we might have some more information forthcoming later.
I don't see any more hands up at this point. Michelle Godfrey, I wanted to turn it back to you and see if you wanted to.
I'm sorry, I have one more follow-up question.
Sure, Emily.
So there's just a lot of different pieces to this. So this press conference was organized after the Oregonian first reported about this breach, 4 days after the breach. And you will not tell people what types of information is being compromised. I think that's important for people to know.
Emily, was there a question in there? I feel like that was more of an observation.
My question is the same question that Bennett has asked and Jamie has asked. What types of personal information is being compromised? Why are we being advised to do credit monitoring if we don't know what types of information is being compromised?
Yeah. So Emily, I think that the best answer to that question right now, and I also think it's important to understand that response to a breach is something that is fluid, and it's always an evolving situation. I think that we have given sufficient information at this time for people to take action. And so we have said, people should check their credit. They should take steps to perhaps freeze their credit. And we have also been forthright in saying that information associated with your driver's ID card is likely to have been exposed. And that is enough to act on for now. We have been talking with our cybersecurity partners, and I can directly say that there is a conversation around the extent to which to divulge all of the fields that may have been part of the breach. And at this time, we do not want to divulge that, because what it does is that it could lend credence to an affirmation of the successfulness of said hack to the threat actors. That may change as days goes on, and as I said, it's a fluid situation. But right now, that is advice that we have received and advice that we accept.
The advice received from whom?
That is from the security community here at the state of Oregon. It includes our cybersecurity services, and it's also a position that I agree with.
So it is 4 o'clock. I wanted to go ahead and wrap things up because I know a number of you have deadlines, and we want to make sure that we post the recording in the chat. Michelle, are there any other reminders we should provide, or any other things that we should be putting in the chat?
We've set up a landing page for the data breach, and we'll continue investigating these files, and more information comes to light day by day. And as it does, we will certainly post those updates to the data breach landing page. I'll post that link again into the chat. Also in the news releases, information for your audiences about how to secure their credit reports. It's just the most simple and basic and most important thing that you can do is monitor your own credit and make sure that, you're keeping track of if there's anything that's happening. We all know what's on a driver's license. We all know what, that information includes. That might be enough. It might not. We don't know. We don't know what the intentions are. There's so many unknowns here that we just can't state. And we do have a lot of constraints about, keeping security so that others aren't harmed. So that's important as well. But be responsible. This is just a heads up. Start monitoring your credit report and protect yourself. This is kind of the world we live in now. We have to be responsible for you know, our data, our information. We're doing everything that we can to understand what data was compromised and letting people know as soon as we can say and as soon as we know what data is compromised. All of these things are evolving, and we'll keep you posted on the landing page. And as other news develops that is appropriate for news media first, we'll certainly let you know individually as you've contacted me and let me know that you're interested in covering this. So I'll keep you posted as well. Feel free to contact me via email or phone. If you want updates, if you feel you've missed something, I'll be happy to fill you in and keep you abreast of what our activities are. So with that, I'll turn it back to Catherine.
Thank you, Michelle. Thank you to the presenters today. Thank you to the members of the media and others who joined us on short notice. We appreciate you, and we'll be communicating further in the future. That recording will be in the chat. Thank you all.